Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the page for Soccer Seraph. I am Malashira. Today, I want to talk some more about D&D and a particular phrase that I think we're all pretty familiar with. That's what my character would do. This phrase has been around in the D&D community as sort of a plague over the last, I want to say, 3 to 5 years. A lot of people have been using it for justification for really shitty behavior. And that's not cool. Like, people are basically doing things like stealing things from the fellow party members, or being dicks to them, or even making like unwanted sexual advances and stuff like that. And basically putting this tagline that that's what my character would do, so my behavior is okay. And that's not okay. You can't be a jerk and use this phrase to justify it. But I'm also seeing the flip side of this happen, where people who are genuinely making decisions that their character would make, and it may not necessarily be the best decision for them with metagame knowledge or even without in some certain cases, but it's being used to condemn people for making these roleplay choices. And I just kind of want to take a minute to say that just because somebody is doing something with the justification that that's what my character would do doesn't mean they're being inherently toxic. Now, if you're using that phrase to justify being an asshole, or insulting your party members, or stealing things from them, or hiding treasure or information that would be important to plot development or character development, or important personal information to one of the characters, or you're like making weird sexual advances towards your fellow party members or players, and you're using that as your justification, that's gross. Stop it. Don't do that. It's not cool. Just don't do it. Okay? But if you are genuinely making a roleplay decision based on the fact that it is something your character would do, even though you as a person outside of the game know that it's a bad idea, that's okay. For example, a barbarian with 6 intelligence going up against a mind flayer, that mind blast is going to ruin that barbarian's day. But as a player who has been playing this game for 12 years, I know that. My barbarian, who's level 3 and has never fought a mind flayer, never heard of a mind flayer, never seen a mind flayer, doesn't even know that things like this could exist, they wouldn't know that. They would rely on the abilities they know, their axe and their rage. They don't know not to go near it. They don't know to take extra precautions to protect their mind. They're going to swing themselves into battle because that's how they function as a person. And in game, they're lacking the knowledge to not make that kind of decision. So I will say that if you're going to do this, if you're going to make informed decisions as a role play reason against metagame knowledge or something along those lines, you have to be willing to live with the consequences of those actions. And unfortunately, the DM is the only one who can really tell you what those consequences are going to be. But that's part of what the game of D&D is signing up a contract between player and DM, that the player is going to give you these actions in response to the scenario the DM puts in front of you, and the DM tells you what the result of those decisions are, what the consequences are. So again, if you're choosing to do something for a roleplay reason, and you're not doing it just to be a dick, you're actually trying to make a genuinely intentional roleplay based decision, then the justification that's what my character would do is perfectly fine. There's even more cases where I might be fighting a devil with a wizard who has never fought devils before and doesn't know they're resistant to fire damage, who is a pyromancer. They're relying on fireballs, they're relying on firebolt, they're relying on a wall of fire. It's what they do. But if they've never fought a devil before, they don't know that fire is a terrible idea. They're going to go back to that fire damage, and that's what they're going to use. It's what they're going to do. And you may even know something about an NPC in the world, or maybe your DM accidentally let a secret drop that they weren't supposed to. Maybe there's lore you know that you weren't supposed to learn for a couple of levels or something like that. And you make a decision as if your character did not know that information because it's what your character would do in the situation they're in with the information that they have. There's nothing wrong with that. This should not be being condemned in the D&D community. This is a good roleplay method. Being able to take yourself out of your own mind and put yourself into the shoes of your D&D character to make informed roleplay decisions based on how they think, how they function, how they operate, and what they do and know is the best kind of roleplay there is out there. because you're getting out of your own head and you're role playing. You are playing the role of the character. You are playing the role of the barbarian who only has 6 intelligence and doesn't know that mind flayers will ruin his whole damn day. You are playing the role of the pyromancer who has never fought a devil and doesn't know that maybe necrotic or radiant damage would be a better option. Being able to make those decisions based on what your character would do, what information they have, how they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they know. That's perfectly fine, and I encourage it at my table, and I encourage all DMs out there to entice your players to make those kinds of decisions. That's how good role play gets made. That's how good character arcs get developed. That's how good plots get made. That's how a lot of my plots work, is it's based on the characters' decisions on what they know, what my characters, my NPCs do in response to what they see the players do, what they know the players do, how much they know about the players, what the players' reputation are, and all of that may not necessarily be the facts of how the player characters function. But it's what the NPCs know, is how the NPCs function as people. It's the information they have and the decisions based off those perspectives. DMs do it all the time because you're not trying to put all of the information in front of your players, and realistically speaking, NPCs shouldn't have every piece of information in the world out there. Neither should player characters, and they shouldn't be condemned for it. Now, there's a major difference between this and if you go into a fight with a pyromancer who used fire spells against a red dragon, and they're casting fireball every round, and 10 rounds later, the player still hasn't stopped doing it, even though the DM has told them 10 times, your fire damage isn't working. At that point, you're kind of pressing up against that line of using it as an excuse to be toxic. That's basically what it boils down to, is if you're going to use it as a justification for a roleplay reason, then that's fine. But if you're going to do something dickish to your party, or you're going to do something dickish to your fellow players, just don't. Maybe find a different game to play entirely. If that's how you want to play the game of Dungeons & Dragons, honestly, Dungeons & Dragons probably isn't for you. You're probably more of a video gamer, and that's fine. But don't put other people in that uncomfortable position just because it's something you feel your character would do. That also goes along the lines of if there is something your character would do, you're not your character. You're the player. You have the wherewithal to not do something that you know is going to upset your party, even if your character would do it. That's the thing, is we have to remember that our characters are fantasy and we are real. Our fellow players are real people with real emotions and real feelings. And I think that's kind of what it all comes back to, is we have to keep in mind that we're all people trying to play a game and trying to have fun. If you're playing the game of Dungeons and Dragons the way it was intended, you know the point isn't to win. The point isn't to be the strongest. The point isn't to be the best. The point is to role play. The point is to have fun. And there's a billion different ways to do that, a billion different styles. Even kicking the door is perfectly fine, where there's almost no role play. But the point is if you are going to role play and you are going to use the excuse, it's what my character would do, don't use that excuse to be an asshole. Use it to form good stories. Use it to form good plot. Use it to form good character development. Use it constructively. That's what I want to see happen in the D&D community, and I'd love to get some opinions down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video, and thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day.
Hey everybody, Malashir here from Sakura Serif. I forgot to add this into the video, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this real quick. All the jewelry that I'm wearing is from a Facebook group called Oasis Vibes, run by KZ. If you're interested in any of this, the link to it is going to be in the description below, so go ahead and check it out.